The black day of April 22, when our country saw one of the deadliest terror attacks on our country in the name of religion in Pahalgam. And that was the day that India decided that we are going to mark a strategic shift into how we tackle terrorism. And the first pinpoint there was that we are not going to engage with states which facilitate terrorism, and definitely in that scenario, Pakistan was on the list. When that came into the picture, the first thing India said that we are putting Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. And since then, even though we are about to complete a year on that, India holds its firm stance that we are not going to budge from that. And that is why India is not recognizing any hearing, any statement that is being made by Hague-based Court of Arbitration, which is being set up under the provision of Indus Waters Treaty, but India recognizes this unbinding and absolutely void. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh, and in today's discussion we will be looking into the fact that why India has decided to not hear from this International Court of Arbitration, why India is pushing in terms of Indus Waters Treaty and abeyance around it, and what are the factors around it. So let us begin with understanding that what exactly is the situation of dispute when we are talking about Indus Waters Treaty. So when we are talking about Indus Waters Treaty, it was brokered by World Bank and it has been functional since 1960. But if we talk about the current dispute with special reference to this Hague-based Court of Arbitration, where India has clearly said that we will not be recognizing any finding, any changes, any hearing that is being done by them. So where it is coming from? It is coming from two major facts. First, Court of Arbitration has been continuing the hearings without India's participation. India has not been present in this arbitration from the very start. Second factor that you need to understand in clarity here, that India is saying that if Indus Waters Treaty is in abeyance, it has been suspended, then how the provisions of that treaty or the mechanisms of that treaty can be used. They are also suspended, and that is why when one of the mechanism is to go to the Court of Arbitration regarding disputes, that is also absolutely invalid. Making the whole constitution of Court of Arbitration absolutely illegal, and all the proceedings here become void. So this is exactly what India is saying. But to understand this in detail, we have to go to the backstory and start from scratch. So when we are starting from scratch, the first point that we have to understand that what triggered that the Indus Waters Treaty has been suspended. So when we are talking about Indus Waters Treaty, we have to remember, as I said in the start, it was after the Pahalgam terror attack that India put the Indus Waters Treaty of 1960 in abeyance, and they clearly said that we are temporarily suspending it under certain conditions. And Indian government had cited national security concerns and how Pakistan has shown support of state-sponsored terrorism, not just in present times but also in future, and that has been the main reason of the suspension of this Indus Waters Treaty, which was triggered by Pahalgam terror attack and the military escalation between the two countries, which was seen just after that. So in this context, this was the trigger point, but later also India has been very clear that it might never restore Indus Waters Treaty with Pakistan at all. So this clearly highlights the fact that the political, ideological tensions between the country can actually allow the countries, or that ideological tensions or tensions such as this put the rule-based mechanism under strain sometimes, and this is sometimes need of the hour, because if you see from India's end, India has tried every tool in the kit to put things straight in terms of state-sponsored terrorism, especially coming from Pakistan's end, but nothing seems to be working. So India has decided to not separate all of this and put a full stop in terms of all sorts of diplomatic relations, in terms of all sorts of trade and any treaties that have been in place. Another important factor that adds more skin to this whole argument is the fact the dependence of Indus water in Pakistan, and that will show that why India is using it as a strategic tool, because Pakistan's water vulnerability in terms of Indus water, it is very structural. If you have to understand it in numbers, 80 to 90% of agriculture in Pakistan directly depends on Indus water system. Second, the storage capacity they have only for 30 days, and already the major reservoirs present in Pakistan, they are near dead storage. That means there is not enough water. And that is why last year itself, the moment Indus Water Treaty was put in abeyance, Pakistan approached UN, they filed multiple legal actions, and they also sent global diplomatic delegations across the world, so as to set a narrative and tell that how India is doing wrong in this scenario. But India is doing nothing wrong when they are sticking to their end, where losses are being caused to them, and not just losses of material things but of lives. So here Pakistan is trying to frame water as an existential threat. Now that is why this whole mechanism of arbitration comes into place. Now we will be moving to understand that particular aspect. So first we have to understand that how Hague Court of Arbitration is associated with Indus Water Treaty. Now Pakistan activated Court of Arbitration. Now when we are talking about activation, first we have to understand how was this an option with Pakistan. For that we need to see that how Indus Waters Treaty has been structured. Indus Water Treaty has been structured with a two-tier dispute resolution mechanism. The first step in this is of neutral expert. If there is any technical issue that either of the country is facing, they will go to the neutral expert. However, if this is not a technical issue, rather a legal interpretation problem is there, then the Court of Arbitration comes into the picture. Now, Pakistan did not exercise this claim, and India clearly says that present dispute in front of us is technical, it's not legal, and it only requires a neutral expert. But Pakistan has simultaneously invoked Court of Arbitration, because they are looking for places which can hear their side or probably side with them. And in this context, Hague-based Court of Arbitration comes into the picture. So Court of Arbitration has already done multiple hearings, and they have asked for submission of Indian hydro project data. They have clearly demanded the pondage logbooks. They need to be given from two important projects, that is Bhagliar hydroelectric project and Kishanganga hydroelectric project, so as to understand if the concerns raised by Pakistan are they correct or not. And Court of Arbitration has also said that there will be consequences, adverse inferences, that Court of Arbitration will think in the other direction if India does not comply with the demand that has been made. But in this context, India has refrained. India has been totally not recognizing the filings. They have made no filing at all, they have done no participation, and they are not even taking recognition of these particular hearings. So in this context, again we will go back to the initial argument that I told, that India is saying that if we have a mechanism in place based on this particular treaty, and if this treaty is being suspended, then how does this mechanism make sense? That is also suspended. But even if you want to do that, then it is a technical issue, not a issue of legal interpretation. It should have been handled by a neutral expert. And India is not budging from this ground, no matter how hard Pakistan is trying to set up a different narrative in this context. So this is the first time that we are seeing that India is explicitly linking water cooperation and terrorism as an instrument of state policy. So there will be no exceptions that will be given to the treaties. The cooperation that any country wants, that will be conditional. And India has made that ground very clear last year itself. And when India is refusing to recognize what Court of Arbitration is saying, it is reaffirming its firm stance in this context. And this was a strategic shift that I was talking about, that the security realities will override any form of technical cooperation that you get to see. Now, in this context, another factor that I mentioned is related to neutral expert. If India is interested at all, it is through this particular dispute resolution, but the question is why? But the question is why? So the answer here is India wants to go by the route of neutral experts so as to ensure that there is no internationalization of the dispute. If the issue is technical, then it should be handled in such a way, it should not be handled politically. And that is why India is opposing any information sharing between neutral expert and Court of Arbitration, because India has not been participating in the proceedings of Court of Arbitration. And any use of documents across parallel forums, that means Pakistan has gone to Court of Arbitration, India has invoked neutral expert, so there should be no change of documents across parallel forums. And this also emerges as a tool to create legal pressure from India. And the reason India is opposing all of this, because this is an attempt from Pakistan to extend the dispute scope, where it is just related to conditional cooperation. India wants to stick to the legal aspects, the technical aspects, but Pakistan is more interested to internationalize the issue. And that is why India is clear on the fact that any parallel proceedings, that means a proceeding going on in Court of Arbitration and another proceeding going on under neutral expert, violates the treaty discipline and it abolishes the procedural hierarchy as well. And that is why India has been very clear that Court of Arbitration is absolutely just namesake and it is illegally constituted. Now, in this context, another important question has emerged, that if we are talking about the Hague Court of Arbitration, does it have any real authority if at all India is not participating? So, in this context, we have to understand that international arbitration, in any scenario, it depends on three primary things. First is the consent, then we have participation and validity of the treaty. As of now, India has not given the consent, India is not participating and treaty has been suspended. However, with India being absent, what will happen? The proceedings will continue, but they will be only one-sided. The orders which will be placed, they will not be enforceable because the arbitration is not valid in this context, and the outcome will have the risk of being just symbolic because there is nothing that can be done. As of now, India seems very open to the fact that, okay, court can give orders, no problem, we won't be following that because we are not obligated to do so. The Pakistan can sit there and argue alone, and the legal record can accumulate over time because it would be without compliance. So, this absenteeism is being used to weaken the legitimacy, to dilute the legitimacy, and this is the another side of global diplomacy that India is using to ensure that the narratives that Pakistan is setting, they are not regarded, they are not awarded and recognized at all. Now, in this context, most important thing for us is to understand the implications for India. So, first implication, yes, our doctrine has seen a strategic shift we are not just going to talk about moral restraint, we are going to protect it by strategic realism. We are going to protect our country. Furthermore, this also reaffirms the message that we had started giving last year, that terrorism also has diplomatic and treaty cost, and any country giving state support to terrorism would have to bear those costs. Another implication that we get to see here, that any challenges around that, furthermore, it directly challenges the assumption that if international law exists, then it operates in a political vacuum. It's not like that, it directly challenges that assumption. And it definitely sets a precedent for India that treaties cannot be immune to the security realities of a nation. So, if you want treaties to remain enforceable, then you have to behave that way. That has been set by India's message and India's non-reaffirmation to court of arbitration and the proceedings around it. Now, what are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.